Good.
But I hope you'll have an opportunity to meet Dorian if you haven't already, between class and worship, and of course, we'll have the meal after worship today as well, so that we can visit together. But for the sake of not stealing any more of this time, I'm going to turn things over to Brother Dorian.
It is really a joy to be here with you all, and I thank you for the invitation. And before I get into the slides, let me just share with you a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Africa, born in Cape Town, South Africa, grew up in Zimbabwe, which was Rhodesia at that time, a British colony. And my mother and father, when they were engaged, decided that religion needed to play a part in their lives. Neither one of them went to church, and neither one of them was religious. So on a Sunday, my dad's playing a soccer match, and at halftime, he's speaking to these guys, and he says, "Listen, do any of you know a good church to go to?" You know, and one guy said, "There's a church down the street called Woodstock Church of Christ," and he said, "You know, it's from what I've heard some good things about them. I've been invited. I haven't gone." So Mom and Dad went down there. And Dad said two things grabbed him. First of all, the friendliness of the people. And he said it was just amazing how everybody just came up to them and spoke to them. And, you know, and then he said, the practice of their worship. He said everything that they did, they would turn to a Bible passage. And he said that captivated me. And I won't go through all the details, but Mom and Dad never looked back. And I had the wonderful privilege of growing up in the church. My dad served as an elder. He was a very successful businessman and was able to send my brother, my sister, and myself over to Harding University, given the chance of a lifetime. And I met a girl from Alabama. And she liked my accent, and I liked her accent. And so we are 51 years down the road. And so we have children and grandchildren, and you know our grandparents could talk about that all day, but I'm not here to talk about them today. But we have begun this work. When our youngest child graduated, we looked at ourselves and we said, hallelujah. And then after that, we decided, let's begin this. And so we've begun Partners for Africa 19 years ago, and excited about how the Lord has worked in this. We are called Partners for Africa because it's Africa, but the number 4 stands for God the Father, and God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, and us, because it takes all to get this great commission going. And we've been entrusted with that, this ministry of reconciliation by the Godhead. And so I'm so thankful for that. This is, you can see, that's my wife, Sherry. She couldn't be here. We have our oldest son has a special needs daughter, and him and his wife had to be out of town, and so she's taking care of her. That's my oldest son, Lee, on the right of me. If you be on the left, if you're looking this way. But then the 3 grandsons, and we all work in Africa together. The grandsons are there during the summertime. And, you know, we've never put pressure on them to, well, you know, you need to be a part of this. They just love it. And so that's Lee's son with the blonde hair. And then my daughter, that's her 2 sons. Her and her husband have Tristan with the navy blue shirt, and Dakota. Dakota is graduating early from high school. He will be graduating in December, and he'll begin at Faulkner University in the spring. He's just a junior. And then my oldest grandson, he is actually left for Faulkner yesterday, and he's actually he spent a year at Heritage Christian University, working on a Bible degree, and found out there wasn't too many girls at Heritage Christian University. It's mainly for older couples to come, and he loved it. And so we took him to Falkland, and he's not only going to finish his Bible there, he'll get a business degree, and then also he's going to play football for them too. So he loves Africa, as you can see. These pictures are taken, he has these pictures taken, and then he sends it to his mother. If you know what I mean. But the white lions, I guess I'm showing you that not for you to see my grandson walking with those animals, but to know that you can have that experience too if you decide to come. This is our team on the ground there. We have a team in the States, which is our family. We've got two sponsoring congregations. One is the Marlin, the Main Street Church of Christ in Marlin, Tennessee. I used to be the pulpit minister there many years ago, not too far from Friedhardman. And then the OCR, Owens Crossroads Church of Christ, south of Huntsville. And these two churches are our congregations that have seen what we wanted to do and have followed it. Haley came to Heritage Christian, and he graduated from there. He went and then got an IT degree from the University of Alabama, and then he went back. And I want you to know he's a special young man because he was here 6 years. And I want you to know if he wanted to marry a girl from here, it wouldn't have been a no-brainer. But he said, I'm going back to Zimbabwe. He says, I want to give my life to my country as far as sharing Jesus Christ. And so God blessed him with a wonderful woman. She is quite amazing. Her name is Noma. And she has a BA in chemistry. She has a master's in chemical engineering, and she's about to begin her PhD. And she did so well in her master's at the University of Cape Town, has given her a free ride to finish her PhD. And needless to say, we are using her at our school, and I'll get to that in a little while. So our work is broke down into good works and good news. We looked at Jesus Christ and his ministry afresh, my wife and I, when we started to kick this off. And we saw in the life of Christ the good works that he did, and we saw the good news that he shared, and witnessed it through our ears and our heart. So we began. Well, let me say, we combined that with the Great Commission. You know, the Great Commission says, go into all the world and preach the gospel. It doesn't give us the method, because the method changes from culture to culture, or it can. And in Africa, we have specifically chosen these good works to get a chance to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so the end game is that they know Jesus Christ. But these are the doors that open it. And so we are working in 7 Southern African countries. If I had to give you an area, it would be Kentucky times 15. That's the area that we're working in. And so it's a large area. So we have the ACT project, which is Africa Container Transport. My son Lee, who I showed you, he heads this up. So somebody said to me, he said, Dorian, you 19 years into this ministry, you getting on in here. What's the future? I said, well, wait a minute. My dad died at 97. So I think I've got still a good runway. But if you're rushing me, we've got our son. My son is in there, and my grandsons. So I just want you to know that this is something, and we've got Haley and 2 other guys and their sons that are involved on that side. So if the Lord tarries, we don't know when he's going to come back. We have got a long runway and people that are bought into what we're doing. So you can see we just finished sending that container to Africa. And this is part of it. Now, the reason I wanted to show you this is because things have changed so much. There's still mud huts in Africa. And they still in rural Africa, and they're living with no running water, no power. And then we have built this school out there, Christian high school, in an area where they've never had a high school. Generations have never graduated from a high school. This was the first one we put there. So a sister in Christ, Ginger, came from Huntington, Tennessee, and she saw what we were doing. So she said, when she got back, she said, when you guys get back, I want you to come to my school because we've just replaced it with new desks. And so I think we got about 150 desks, besides Mars Hill Bible School in Florence, Alabama, had already provided us with about a little over 100 as well. But you see those boxes to the right? She says, the headmaster says, do you want some of these? And when they told us what it was, we said yes, and they gave us 12. Because you see, in rural Africa now, because we have solar power, and believe it or not, we have Starlink, what those are power boards. So in rural Africa, and those kids are like the kids here, they come wired. You know, I've got problems, but they were just working those boards, you know. I'll get back to the school, but I just wanted you to see that. This is our graduating class, our first graduating class that it'll be this November. This November. So that's my wife, and that's a new feeding program that we have just begun with over 100 children in the rural areas. It's hard for me to explain to you because we are so blessed. First of all, America is the greatest country on earth. If you travel anywhere else in the world, and believe me, I've been to a lot of countries, there is nothing like the United States. These children will eat a meal maybe once every 2 or 3 days. You know, when people in Africa say they're starving, it means they haven't eaten for several days. You know, when we as Americans say we're starving, is when we having lunch at 1 instead of 11. I mean, and I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not trying to run you on a guilt trip, because the generosity of Americans, there's no country as generous as America. But all I'm saying is that just the lifestyle is just so different. So we have the DAD project, and so you have the ACT project, that's shipping containers over there. We do that, 40-foot containers, you saw the stats. Then we drill water wells, drilling and drip irrigation. And so far in 19 years, you can see we've done 146 wells, and every single day, over 420,000 people get clean water from our wells. Now, we don't drill randomly. Remember the end game. The end game is that they know living water. But we want them to get physical water. So the living water, you know, is the end game. It's the plan. You know, so we drill a well either where we are about to plant a church, or where there is a congregation, or if it's at a school, because the government schools, when we drill water there because they don't have any water, they allow us to teach the Bible in these public schools. So there's the door opener to get in the living water. So this is a well we just finished in a village where we planted a church. Over 3,000 villages are getting water from that well. That well, we are thankful for that. We just finished drilling a well in Zambia, where we're about to build our second Christian high school. And we're going to need help for that, believe me. But we hit, well, the driller said, well, Mr. Flynn, we hit the river. And it was, man. It's going to be fantastic. By the way, the Zambian, after the chief in the area, with brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ who are close to him, shared with what we've done in Zimbabwe to build a Christian school there, and I'll show you more of it later. He gave us 50 hectares. And you translate that into Bourbon County, that's 124 acres for a high school. So we are excited. We are excited about that. That's just a short little video, but anyway, I just wanted you to see. This is a second school in the city of Bulawayo, where these high schoolers are so happy because they can get water. You know, most of the high schools in the city of Bulawayo, and I know you probably haven't heard of it, but it's the second largest city in Zimbabwe. It's a city of 1.4 million. The high schoolers get water at their school once a week. So it might be Friday that they get their water. Now the school gets it on a Monday. Because we drilled a well, these high schoolers get water every day, and we have been able to teach the Bible, and now we've got a whole Bible curriculum going there. So you could say that government school has become a Christian school, and it's because of water. So we've got all these new students that are hearing the gospel of Jesus Christ. This was a well we just finished at the airport primary school. And the reason I'm just showing you this is because you think of people that have nothing and you give them something so precious that they could never, ever afford, you're going to have opportunities. So this is what that looked like 10 days ago. And this is our last well we just finished. And that's a solar well. So, you know, most of our wells now are solar. It's about $8,500 to $9,000, somewhere around there to finish them off. But you'll see we've got a protective fence because a lot of times there's wildlife in the area, you know, so you get protective fence, and then you pull the water out of the ground with solar, and you see the panel on top of the tank goes into the tank, and then from the tank, you know, you run your faucet, and then you've got some happy kids, you know. And on top of that, we feed them every week. And when I say we feed these children every week, I mean we feed them physical food and we feed them spiritual food. We tell them the story of Jesus, and we tell them the story of what Jesus wants. And because there's congregations planted in the area, most of these kids now start our Sunday school, and 19 years now have become, you know, youth and Christians, you know, so. Just a little story here. Those 3 boys came to one of our feeding programs. Their parents had died of AIDS, and that's them 2 years ago. They have graduated out of our feeding program, but they still come. They are part of the youth group. They've been baptized into Christ. But something special happened with that guy with the black shirt on. Meaning the other guys have done well, but this guy, we sponsored them too to go to school. You know, they wouldn't get any education. There was no money. But this guy, he seized it, man, and grabbed it. And so he did so well in school that he has now been accepted into medical school. This is 4 weeks ago where Emmanuel got on a bus to Lusaka, Zambia. And he is at Eden Medical School in Lusaka. And there is him with his medical coat on. I needed to ask him, where's your stethoscope, man? You know, but because he's just starting. But I'm saying, look how God works in our lives, you know. Here is this little old orphan. Let's feed him, you know. Let's get him to school, get him an education. And you know what's happening? We've built a clinic next to our high school. Guess who guess who one of our doctors is going to be? And then we have the Mom Project, which is making orphan meals. And currently we feed over 2,500 children a week. In those countries, Eswatini used to be Swaziland, Zimbabwe, Zambia, South Africa, Lesotho. And we also help with drought relief. Could I just throw this out to you right now? The rainy season begins in October, late October, in Southern Africa. And it'll continue maybe through March, and then it's done. It's not like here, where we'll get rain, and then when the seasons change, we might get snow and ice, and but I mean, it's just constant, but not there. And so when you get to the end of July, and then you get into August and September, if the rains haven't been good, and they usually are not good in all those countries, then we really have to help our brothers and sisters. And so we're doing a lot of that right now. We're helping these children at this school right now. They just went back to school. I want you to know that there, on that floor in front of them is a notebook, pencil for them to go back to school, and a green bar. It's soap. And the green bar serves 3 purposes: to wash clothes, to wash dishes, and to wash their body. And they cut it up into 3 pieces, and they'll do that. And let me tell you, their parents are so happy when they come home with that green bar. But this is some of the children we are feeding right now. Hungry. I've heard educators say in the States, that about the feeding programs they have in the States, that, some children are not eating at home, for whatever reason. And how do children learn when their stomachs are growling? And it's the same there. So we try to provide them a good meal, at least one good meal a day. And then we've got elderly in the villages who have tried to grow. The rain hasn't come, or the rain has come too much, and then it's just quit. I know this immediate area is not farming area per se. Beautiful, man, what a drive from Lexington to here and to see all this, Of course, I'm familiar with Christian County, and because I lived there. But what I'm saying is they just don't have anything, Well, Dorian, what about the government? No, there's no safety nets. There's no Social Security. You can't go to a food bank. There's nothing. This is Tristan and others. This is one of our trucks unloading. And the reason I wanted to show you that is these people, some of them hadn't eaten for 2 days, okay? There's hundreds of them sitting on the ground when we pull up with our truck. Do you know that not one of them rushes the truck? They are hungry people. But the family structure in most of Southern Africa, especially in the rural areas, is very strong. They respect the elderly. They respect society and its laws. And they will sit there until they're given their food. And they were all given food. That's our clinic. We've had this clinic. We opened it up in 2017. It is a free clinic. It is a non-referable clinic. What I mean by that, now it's going to change, but for now, we can, the left side of the clinic is just the delivering of babies, maternity, and on the other side is snake bites and broken bones, and, we've had a couple of children run over by a vehicle, just to kind of help them in a minor way, So we've got nurses there, but we are making a transition within the next 3 years to probably knock all of that down and build a hospital, because things are changing so much there amongst the churches of Christ, amongst the youth there. And I'll tell a little bit more about that next session. But we're thankful for that clinic. By the way, we've had over 200 babies born there already. And the local minister there, we have a high school campus, and we have a congregation that we've planted on that campus. And the minister there has the devotional every morning with all those patients that are waiting to see nurses, and also the itinerant doctor. So this is our high school. Amazon Christian Academy in Bulawayo, outside Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, about 50 miles. We built it in an area purposely where there was no high school. So 2 things that's advantageous about that. Number one, the communities in the area are definitely going to rally to making this real, because there's red tapes you've got to go through. And the first level of red tape is you've got to get approval from chiefs in the area, the councillors, elected officials. And if you bring in something that they can't possibly afford, then it's a green light, and it has been for us. So we're thankful for that. And the other thing is when we decided to begin these good works, my wife and I, and we kicked off Partners for Africa, we made the decision that these good works would only be done if every penny goes to the good work. You know how you have charitable organizations, and you give them $1 and maybe 40% goes to overhead or 20% goes to overhead? We weren't going to do that. You give $1, 100% goes to that. You give $1 for food, 100 cents goes for food. Now, sometimes they've got to buy petrol to deliver it and that, but that's all included in that. But nobody gets paid, and it's all volunteer. Well, when you're doing wells and you're doing feeding, that's all part of it. But now you start building a school. Now you're thinking on a long term. How do you build a school there that's going to last if the Lord tarries generations? Well, it's got to be self-sufficient. So you got to go on two tracks. Number one, we decided that we would build the infrastructure. That's what we're doing. I'll raise money when I'm in the States to raise and build the infrastructure. But while that's being done, we are building income streams there. For instance, our clinic that I showed you the picture of, it's a free clinic. It's done because we have agriculture. Do you know that Zimbabwe is 9 months summer, 3 months winter, which is like our early spring. We can grow 2 crops. So we provide a free clinic with 18,000 tomato plants. 18,000 tomato plants. It's just quite, so when I'm in Zimbabwe, I love it because I love those fresh tomatoes. In the summer year, when it gets to winter, oh no, man, those are all, so I get to have it there. But that's my point. So our school has been built. It is off the grid, totally solar. We drill wells, so we've got free water. And then right now we have probably about 270 head of cattle. And at the end of this year, selling off without damaging our herd, the numbers, we will have 60,000 US to pay for the teachers' salaries. And we will be able to pay for the teachers' salaries completely by the end of 2028 because of the way we're going. So raising money to build infrastructure, get that all done, and then say, okay, here are the income streams, take it and run with it. And so we are looking at a few other things that I don't feel like I can mention right now as far as the income stream until we have it completely down. So there's Amazon Christian Academy, and this is our statement, preparing students for life globally and eternally. And that's our purpose. That is our purpose. And so we started with the high school. We finished our 4th year at the end of this coming year. It'll be our first graduating class. We built one block, each has 2 classrooms, one block. And by the way, we have about 75 acres that the government gave us. Build those, and then we finished 3 front blocks. We finished a 4th block, which is our computer, and you can see the solar panels up there, And then last June, we finished that computer block, and those are 16-year-old students. Now, if you had to put a 16-year-old student from Africa standing here, and put maybe a 13-year-old student from the US, you'd think they were the same age, because most of those kids they've hardly eaten a meal a day, they've suffered from malnutrition at different times and stuff like that. So, of course, we feed them now, and we exercise them because we want them to be physically, so their brain. But this was June last year, and that's the first day they touched a laptop. You talk about excited. They kept telling us, I can type. I don't know how good at that time, but they were blown away. Now, you know what makes it so special? All those children right there, that group right there, that down the hall, they all live in mud huts. They have no running water, they have no power. And they have just walked on an average, an hour and a half one way to school, and they walk hour and a half one way back. Now you figure out the time, or as far as the centuries of being there and coming and sitting in front of a laptop. It's just mind-boggling, And besides that, to teach them about Jesus Christ and for them to have all those Bible courses. Me and my sister and my daughter and my wife, we all got degrees in Bible and that sort of thing. And we put that curriculum together, man, and they have just taken it and run with it. And we are so thankful. This is our sports building that we just finished. By the way, I want you to know that each block that you see there costs 100,000 US. And the reason I'm saying that, I'm not asking you for that. What I want you to know is that when that block is finished, it's 100,000, 2 classrooms, storage, all of that. But the overhead is negligible because there's no central units. They have like a Arizona climate. Nobody has central air, central heat. So those blocks, that block building is almost negligible as far as maintaining it. That's our sports building. We got weights in there. You should have seen them. We had to tell them how to use it properly, and I got a grandson that could tell them because they could hurt themselves. But they were so weak to begin with. But then they changed, and so we're thankful for that. The guy in the red tie is the permanent secretary for education in Zimbabwe, and he drove down from the capital, and he was seeing some of the rural schools. And so he left 15 minutes to visit Amazon Christian Academy. Well, when he got there, he was just blown away. I think he was there for about 1 hour and 15. I don't know what other things he canceled, but he couldn't believe what we had. So we were thankful for that. So now we're on our 5th classroom block, and I wanted to show you these series of pictures so that you can see what it takes. So the first, of course, is the foundation. Some of you know. And then we start with bricks. The only part of a classroom block at our school that's wood is the trusses. Rest is just concrete. And then now the slab is poured, and now the walls start going up. And there you are, ready for. They got the slots for the windows. There's our wood. It's the trusses that goes up, and then the roof goes on. And we're about to put in the windows, and we need to finish the floors. And we lack about $8,500 to do that. And we'll be working on that. And that's one reason why I came back, is that we could get some funds to help towards that. Now, I want to tell you why this building is special, because we built a high school. But remember our end game. Our end game is that these children know Jesus Christ, and that when they leave this school, they'll take Jesus Christ with them. Whether they become doctors, lawyers, farmers, teachers, it's growing the church there. So this building takes our high school graduates, and we are opening next year a junior college, and then heading towards a full-fledged university like Fried Hardman, the first one of those in Southern Africa of the Churches of Christ. And we are extremely excited. So we can keep these children, if we can keep them for 10 years, they're going to be church planters when they leave, wherever they go. Not only that, at the end of next year, we will become a boarding school also, meaning we can have students from other African countries to come in and be a part of our school. And that'll be another way we can evangelize as well. You know, the first year we opened the school, nobody was baptized because they didn't know who we were. They were excited about the high school, but they, as a religious group, they didn't know who we were. I mean, we were going into new territory, you know, as far as evangelism was concerned. And then they started learning about it, and their children would come home and share what they've been taught. And I'm telling you, they are obeying the gospel now. I mean, that water hardly stays still. And of course, we are excited about it. And to see them, you know, you see them in their uniform, they look so great, but you think about how their hearts have been changed. They've come there. Some of them have been involved in ancestral worship, or their mother might go see a witch doctor every now and again, and now they've come to become, now they're New Testament Christians. And that's what makes it so amazing. And so we continue to go forward, we continue to expand. So that's what we're doing there. But let me just remind you again that we are there to spread the word of God. And so up to this point, that's how many have been baptized this year. And we are grateful. During COVID, we kind of dipped it a little just because everything was shut down so much. But we are really growing now, and we've had a lot of campaign teams come. We did 5 campaign teams this summer. And I say summer, it actually began in late April, and then it's gone all the way through the end of June. 4 new churches have been planted, and altogether 103 new congregations in 19 years. Now, you think about this is one of the sweet spots of the churches of Christ. And that's our evangelism in Zambia. We find different ways, just as long as we can immerse them, you know. There's different ways. This is at one of the wells we did, you know, at a congregation, by the way, the Central Church of Christ in Zimbabwe. This is a new church we just planted. And the reason I want you to see that picture is because we do not raise money to build buildings, and we do not raise money to support preachers. Because if you did that at what we are trying to accomplish, your money would run out. But if you can drill a well and say, okay, build your building, and then the well benefits people every single day, and then it's opportunities to share the gospel, that's the way to do it. So we are about to drill a well there. But for now, they've taken their own initiative, and they've built their own building. Temporary one at that, but they've got it, and they're excited about it. We began, this year, we began a brand new ministry, and that's Bible camps. Bible camps have always been special to me. Made a great impact on my life, and I think probably there's so many here. If you grew up in the churches of Christ, or if you're a young person right now, you may even went to camp this summer. Christian camps are amazing. So we've begun that through Southern Africa this year. And my grandson, who is the oldest one heading to Faulkner, he's making plans to head up that program for us in Southern Africa. And he started this summer. And so we had people from 5 different countries come and be a part of our camp. These camps weren't just for people part of youth groups. These camps were all for leaders in the youth groups in Southern Africa with the churches of Christ. So we could lay some sort of format down and say, listen, this is where we want to go. And so these were all leaders. We're thankful for that. I want you to show you this because we think of all ways that we can reach people. When people die in the rural areas, they don't have much, and they can't afford a coffin. And so they dig a ditch there outside the village, and they just wrap the body in a sheet and just drop it in the hole. And so we thought if we could come in there, because we've got carpenters, and they could build the family a coffin. If the body needed to be taken to the morgue, we would put them in the pickup truck and take the body. They usually have a mourning period before the funeral of about 3 to 4 days. And so we will bring in food for those people. And I want you to know that's just another door opener. And we have reached several people, and we have planted 4 different congregations in the last 5 years because of that compassionate ministry that we had. And those 2 ministers in the suits there are part of the guys that headed up. 2 fantastic guys. And so we also have leadership. You say, Dorian, how can you baptize so many people? Then how many stay faithful? Well, the only way they're going to stay faithful is not by crossing your fingers and saying, well, good luck. We've got a program where when they come out of the water, we grab them, besides the church and besides what they're going to learn at the different classes, we've got good works, and then we've got leaders that put them into groups and bring them along. And so we have 32 leadership seminars a year in 7 countries, constantly, so that they can be meeting the needs of these new converts. And these are some of the leadership training that's going on. These are men in Zambia. These are preachers. And then women are also being trained as well to teach other women as well. And there's some in the rural areas of Eswatini, men that have come together. And these are ministers that go back to their congregations and say, okay, here's our new converts. Now let's go this direction with them, And I'll close with this. I believe this is the last one here. I'll close with that. That's our a worship service we had at our camp, at our high school. And I think this church will become the largest congregation in Zimbabwe probably in the next maybe 5 to 10 years, just because our school is growing, and then we'll have a university there. But we had over 1,100, and so we're excited about that. Let me say before I sit down, I just thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to share with you our good news, and the opportunity to share with you something for you to consider in how you can expand, what you are doing as a church. But I am thankful. We've got maybe a minute or two. Anybody want to ask a question? Yes.
I think I understand, like South Africa and Rhodesia, at least English is somewhat some common there. You can communicate. But is that a barrier for teaching and communicating the gospel to in other areas there?
In other parts of Africa, yes, it is. But as you said, because of the British colonial history, much of the schools, they still teach English besides the other languages. However, there are high schools like ours where we teach in English. And that's what the parents still want, because they still see it as the universal language to know. And so if you go out into the rural areas, you'll find people that haven't gone to school will speak in their native language. And so some of our leadership seminars, we'll have to have an interpreter. But anybody that's gone to school, I'd say below 50, speak English. And so it really helps immensely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they might know 4 languages, but English is one of them. And all I know is British English and Southern. And I learned that from my wife, and I don't speak that very well. All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity.